Stephen Burega.
How you doing?
Fantastic. Yourself?
Good to see you again.
Yes, we're going to talk about Romios
Perfect.
Golden Triangle.
Indeed.
I've been there. I know it well. So let's get into it. How did you get involved in this project?
Well, I joined the team about a year and a half ago,
Okay.
and it's been an exciting year and a half. So Romios actually has a storied history. It's been around for 28 years.
Yeah.
Founded by a gentleman named Tom Drivas. And Tom asked me to take over the company in 2 Septembers ago now. And really the goal is to try and figure out what we should do with all of these amazing assets that he's acquired over the last 30 years. So as you mentioned, we have assets in the Golden Triangle. We also have actually quite a very big land package in northwestern Ontario. Okay. Along the same greenstone belt as Newmont's Musselwhite mine. Mm-hmm. There's just two of us in that on that entire belt. There's the Newmont assets and ours. And then we also have two really exciting assets down in Nevada. So when I joined the team, the goal was, okay, how are we going to finance and work on all of these big projects?
Right. It's a lot.
It's a lot. So, we're contemplating whether or not what needs to be the priority, because we need to get focused.
Yeah.
And then the rest, the other two, whichever the other two might be, we need to find partners for and or potentially spin these companies off as separate entities onto their own to be financed separately.
Because they can kind of hold their own weight. They bring
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. And
so,
sorry, when you came on, you're the president, CEO, and a director.
I am. Yeah, that's right.
I didn't mention that off the top there.
No problem.
Okay, so all right, let's get into this. You want to start with the Golden Triangle?
Yeah, sure. That sounds great.
I do. I can visualize this map in my head of the Golden Triangle. I've looked at so many times.
Perfect.
So you are next to, I think you border on the southern part of Galore Creek.
That's right.
And that property is co-owned by two majors,
Newmont and Teck.
And they are going to put some infrastructure in.
They've got a lot of infrastructure that they're planning. So Galore Creek is arguably one of the largest undeveloped mines in the world. There's a massive resource. It's north of 1 billion tons of copper.
Yeah, that's huge.
Not ore, but actual copper.
Yeah.
And an ungodly number of ounces of gold and silver. Like, it's an unbelievable asset.
Yeah.
And it's going to be an expensive build-out, of course. The last pre-feasibility study, I think, came in around $6 billion, and I'm sure it's going to be more than that. We're expecting some numbers actually next quarter, I think. Mm-hmm. But they've done some development already. So they actually built an access road from Highway 38, which is to our east, and that road intersects a number of our claim blocks. So as you mentioned, we're right along the southern boundary.
Yeah.
The land package is quite significant. There's 400 plus square kilometers in total.
Yeah, it's massive.
And what we have there is where they intersect, where it goes right through a block called Trek. And we actually did some really significant work about a decade ago on Trek North, a target that we had identified as a copper porphyry system. We drilled the better part of 15,000 meters and intersected some real bonanza grade material. We didn't take it to a resource level, a reportable resource. Access is a little bit hairy up there. Mm-hmm. Fast forward a decade, and we identified, because of the receding glaciers, we identified a new target called Trek South. And over the last 3 years, we've been building out our understanding of it. So we flew a MAG survey quite some time ago. We were able to look at that and identify where a potential pluton sits. And then we have this epidote field that's over 1 kilometer wide. And without getting too technical, forgive me, I'm not a geologist, so I try and keep it simple.
It's fine.
Epidote is a typical is a mineral that you see at surface often over top of these copper porphyry systems. Then over top of that epidote field, you see stockworks, which is basically crisscrossing quartz veins. And the results, assay results that came out of the quartz is high-grade copper, silver, and gold. So you have those two pieces of the puzzle lining up. And in fact, we also have some significant tungsten skarns that are on one edge of this area. So last summer we decided we were going to shoot IP-induced polarization. We shot 3 lines, and essentially what IP allows us to do is see underground, and it looks for sulfides in rock.
Yeah.
So that IP survey came back, and we did 1 line of MT, which allows us to see very deep. But the IP survey and MT surveys came back, and they showed a really significant target. So it lit up 800 meters end to end. It starts at surface, and about 200 meters below, it fans out to over 500 meters wide. And then this target shoots down 650 meters on the IP, and it shows it going down 2 kilometers total on the MT line. So that's a very significant target.
That's nothing to get excited about. That's a joke, obviously.
That is exactly what majors are looking for.
It's not hard to go up to the Golden Triangle, and it's just, even just like, you know, the outcropping, right? When you're walking around up there, it's amazing.
It's the most beautiful place I've ever been in my life. I've hiked and traveled all over the world. You know, as you know, I spent a lot of time in Southeast Asia, a lot of time in Africa.
Yeah.
Our backyard is the most beautiful place in the world, and
it is.
And northern BC is the top of the list in our backyard.
So you've driven 38 before.
I've done the entire from Terrace north.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So if you fly into Terrace and then you drive north for about 7 hours, I think it was 6 or 7 hours.
Did you see any bears?
Yeah, you see bears.
This is a digression.
On the side of the highway.
Literally, I actually had to stop because the mother and their cubs were driving like right down the middle, or walking, cubbing, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Right down the middle of the road.
Yeah.
And there's people with massive cameras. It's so beautiful.
It is beautiful.
And I've also flown in from Terrace.
Well, this is the thing about the Golden Triangle, is that accessibility is everything. So kind of circling back to your first comment, which is infrastructure. The fact that the Trek South IPMT target is only 1 kilometer away from that proposed road that's being built by the GCMC team, the Galore Creek team, is exceptionally rare.
Yeah, and it's good for everybody in that area.
And it's good for everybody. They also have a proposed mill site that's about 11 kilometers down that road from the site, from Trek as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, just from that level of infrastructure, we're in an exceptional position. If this proves into something significant, that in itself is a few $100 million off of the top of, you know, that's what it costs.
Yeah.
Accessibility in the triangle makes these types of exploration projects really expensive to get through. For example, everything's helicopter supported.
Yeah.
Where do you camp? Like, we camp out of Truffle, which in the case of, you know, distance from Truffle Camp to this particular target, you know, you're 40 plus kilometers in the air on a helicopter each way.
Yeah, I know.
And for a little company like ours, that's a lot.
That's
a lot of money.
So what's your drilling like, what's your cost per meter? Like 400, 500 bucks?
At least.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah, it's crazy. What elevation? Are you low elevation down there? I think you are?
No, well, this is high plateau. Okay. So, like, you know, we're well above the valley floor on this particular asset.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you the exact elevation. Forgive me, but
so helicopters being used.
Everything is helicopter supported.
And the drill season's like 2.5 months, 3 months.
Yeah, if you're lucky, you get 3 months.
Yeah, the weather changes up there like crazy.
So I was out there in September with John Bigsock, my VP of Exploration, and we spent 10 days, the better part of 10 days up there, and we had consecutive days of sun, and it was the first time that was the case all summer long.
Wow.
And like, I think it was a couple of days after we left, it turned to rain and then turned to snow. So it turns very quickly.
Yeah.
And so basically, to summarize, we've got this amazing IPMT target. We've been entertaining conversations. It was really quite interesting at PDAC this past week. And at Roundup in Vancouver, for your audience who knows that. It was very nice. Every phone call I've made, the major has picked up and has agreed to a meeting. So, you know, we're sitting on an asset that is very much in demand. We'll see if we can find a strong enough partner in a deal that makes sense.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't come to fruition, then we're going to move it forward and we're going to drill it ourselves this summer.
Nice.
So that's the primary target. I mean, that Trek area is prolific. So we've got Trek South, which presented itself because the glaciers receded and the work we did. Right next, just west of that, there's a VMS system called TOW, about 400 meters to the west. And then continuing west from TOW, there's another potential target that has the early stage signs of potentially being another porphyry target. And north of that, there's an additional target. So, excuse me, it's prolific, it's exciting, and time will tell where we move all these potential assets. But first and foremost, I'm trying to find a partner for that one.
So that's the Golden Triangle.
Yes.
Now I've got a feeling that you probably like Nevada.
I do like Nevada a lot.
Is that where you want to be the focus of the company?
I think what we will do is we'll be opportunistic, and of course we'll have to work with if I were to say my favorite assets, I like Nevada because you can drive your truck to where you need to be,
right,
do the work, and go home at night. You don't have to rely on helicopter-supported exploration.
Yeah, exactly.
So Nevada is very special from that perspective, and we have two really exciting assets. One is an asset called Kincaid. It's a grouping of 109 claims, and we staked that just over a year ago. We've been down to property a few times now, two work programs, and we're finding adits, former operating mines, trenches, pits, all across the southern extent of this project. I think we've been to about 15 of them, and I guarantee you there's another 15 or 20 targets that we still haven't been able to get to. We just haven't put boots on the ground enough yet. And every opening at every adit, there's always dump material, there's always leftover material.
Yeah.
And in every single case, we find high-grade copper mineralization running with gold or with silver, and in some cases both gold and silver. So multi-percent copper mineralization in these dumps. And highest copper values on some of these grab samples was north of 7%. Silver values north of 1,000 grams per ton.
Okay.
High teens into the low 30s of grams per ton for gold in some cases. I mean, it's exceptional. It really is exceptional.
Was there any past work done on the property?
Well, there's historically, yes, but not modern day, not modern work. So in the case of Kincaid, operations, last operations would have been in the 30s,
Wow.
In most cases. But you find valleys where there's 3 or 4 adits that are stacked up the length of the valley, and we hike in there and find just these exceptional grades coming off the dump piles. Every valley you would look down, you find a new asset that isn't found on any map, so there really isn't any continuity of data in Nevada. Nevada is a special place. The system isn't like we have here in Canada, where you have to supply update reports on the every year. You do your work, you report it, you keep things in good standing. In Nevada, you pay your fees. You do or do not do work, that's irrelevant. It's all fee-based. You keep things in good standing that way. So the historic work and the historic reports aren't always easy to come by. In the case of Kincaid, we've found odds and ends here and there, but nothing of significance of who did the work and where and what were the outcomes of some of these grades and tonnage and these operations. We just don't have that historic work, unfortunately. Okay. So it's exciting, walking these hills in Nevada in the Walker Lane, which is southwestern Nevada, with John Bixlock, my VPX. He's got this smile on his face, and he's never seen anything like it, because every time we go around a corner, we find another pit, another trench, or another adit, and we get there, and sure enough, there's more material laying there, and high-grade copper, high-grade silver, high-grade gold. It's exceptional. Early days, we have a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
We're going to have boots on the ground, hopefully by around April 1st, and some young geologists to really get to every single target. we'll sample them. We'd need to do soil sampling. We need to do a real general component of geology, and then we'll start prioritizing targets. And that's the southern half. The northern half, we're looking at these big skarn structures, different model altogether, and equally as exciting, but we just need to get boots on the ground.
How much money does the company have right now in the treasury?
About $1 million in cash and securities, give or
Okay.
take. Yeah.
And the capital structure?
We have about 250 million shares outstanding.
You're gonna have to raise some money here.
We will.
Okay.
We're going to have to raise some dollars for sure. But first and foremost, I'm going to go through a variety of conversations with potential partners. We'll see where those net out,
Right.
and then we'll decide the way forward as far as the financing is concerned.
Yeah. So obviously you want to not dilute this company, and you're. If I was you, I'd be thinking about partnering on these things. That'd be a priority.
Absolutely, that is without a question.
Okay.
On the structure, I think it's important to understand and to apply the structure to the length in which this company's been around. So the history of this company. So 28 years this company's been around. We've issued less than 10 million shares a year over 28 years, if you put it that way.
Yeah.
So we come by the 250 million share number quite honestly.
Yeah.
And given the significant asset base, I really want to give it a shot to make sure that we try and focus our new shareholders to understanding that history and the understanding that 250 million shares sounds like a lot. It's all relative. If we were a single asset company with one small asset in the Golden Triangle,
Sure.
I'd say, okay, well, look, how are you going to do this? We're a multi-asset company with massive asset bases, and I didn't even mention the SCOSA asset in Nevada. That's a former producing mine where the average grade came out at over an ounce per ton.
Okay. So this share structure has never been rolled back.
It has never been rolled back, absolutely.
Okay. And you've got it. You think you have enough value within the company where you don't need to do that. You've got optionality.
For right now, we're going to, as I say, the primary focus is going to be finding potential partners to take on some of these assets that we can't afford to do ourselves, and get really laser focused on one package of assets.
Yeah.
That's my goal.
Well, I like it because investors love hearing focus.
Yeah.
It's good to have options, but what are you focusing on?
Well, that's
so
it.
I like that.
And I think, my hat goes off to Tom and his ability to see things early. Some of these assets we've had on the books for literally 30 years.
Right.
And Tom amalgamated originally over 800 square kilometers in the Golden Triangle. We did a deal with a company called Enduro.
Yeah, I know Enduro.
So, a big chunk of Enduro's properties, they've been obviously adding to it over the recent years, but a lot of those targets are targets that we identified in the deal, in Burgundy Ridge and the number of those assets.
Familiar with it. So in Enduro, that project is the one with the landing strip.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Cole and Dylan are doing a great job. I like them a lot, and we're a big shareholder, so I want to see them successful. And at the end of the day, we also have a very significant NSR, so I want to see them move into production as much as anybody. Okay. But that's an example of hard work. Tom putting in the time and energy early days to find an asset base this big in the heart of the triangle is very hard to come by.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Last word to current shareholders and potential new shareholders. I think you've done a good job articulating the company, the assets, the vision, and a couple things here. You're going to figure it out what you're going to do with to raise money or to JV.
Well, I think focus. Mm-hmm. Find partners who can afford to do some of the more expensive heavy lifting as far as some of these assets, especially in the triangle. And then I think that, at the end of the day, I think Romios is in a position like very few companies are in this very crowded world of exploration to be sitting on the potentially 3 separate companies worth of assets.
Right.
So if I don't find a partner and a deal that makes sense, I will always have the optionality to be able to take a grouping of assets, through plan of arrangement, spin that out
Yeah.
to the benefit of our shareholders.
Sure.
So at the end of the day, you end up with two companies rather than two ownership structures rather than a single one in Romios. So RG on the venture is our ticker.
Nice.
We're sitting there around 3 to 4 cents. In the last year and change, we've traded almost 100 million shares to create, I'm really working hard to create a much more healthy marketplace for ourselves.
Okay.
I want to see more trading activity on the regular. And, at the end of the day, I just think it's an exceptional asset base. And I'm reintroducing it to the marketplace because we did have a little bit of a dormant phase. So would welcome any questions from your audience. My cell phone is on the bottom of every single press release. I'm readily available. So.
Yes, you're super available. You like to engage with your shareholders.
I really do. I think that's the most important thing. That's my job.
Awesome. I think that was a great interview, and I think we'll leave it off on that note if you're okay with that.
Absolutely. Look forward to the next one.
Get a hold of Mr. Burega if you need to if you want to find more details on the discussion we've had today. We've got some questions for him, and we look forward to catching up with you. Are you going to market this story anywhere else?
Yes, absolutely. So down in the States, out in Europe, all of this is ongoing, and the potential partners are not always only Canadian. So we have to definitely explore various locations and marketplaces. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Signing off. Take care.
Thanks very much.